So, back for another VGC guide, and this time we're looking at Gardevoir. This is actually going to be quite a strong Pokemon, in my opinion. It's quite flexible in what it can do. It can do many different things. There aren't many fairy types in the game as well. Let's just have a quick look. Not many fairy types, so ignore Iron Valiant, it may come back. Ignore Fluttermane, it might come back. But yeah, that's not many. And there's only a few good ones as well. So yeah, not many fairy types. Obviously, anything can be a fairy type, so that point may be irrelevant, but Gardevoir is still entirely usable, and I think pretty good as well. So Psyshock, Moonblast, and Mystical Fire is amazing coverage of a base 125 special attack stat. If you are going with a Trick Room route, this is entirely viable, especially with Telepathy. So you can explode next to yourself with like a Garganical or something like that to be able to set up the Trick Room. If you want to be going for like banded earthquakes as well, you can earthquake next to your own Gardevoir. There are other moves that would be able to be spammed next to Gardevoir as well, thanks to telepathy. Trace is volatile, and it could be okay if you don't have anything that can hit your Gardevoir on your team. Then I would probably consider Trace over Synchronize, because Trace can be good, but it can also be bad. So just be aware that you are playing with quite a lot of volatility if you're using Trace. If you don't have a spread move next to your team, but either of these abilities is absolutely fine if you're going with this Trick Room set. Just go with Min Speed, go with Max Attack, or Max Special Attack, that I should say, because you're going to be running the Focus Sash. It doesn't have the greatest of bulk, so that if you want to be setting up the Trick Room, then you probably need the Focus Sash. So you might as well go full Special Attack, and then it's actually hitting pretty hard with 125. Terrestrialization into Fire type is to cover for the Steel types. And then you got Mystical Fire as coverage as well. Slightly weaker than Terra Blast, but also usable as a fire move outside of Terrestrialization, and special attack drop guaranteed. That's worth 5 less BP for sure. So this coverage is very good. I may consider Energy Ball and Grass type as well, because then you are immune to spores and all that stuff as well. But then you are not going to hit Steel types in the slightest. So I would probably stick to Mystical Fire and Fire typing for Gardevoir instead. So that's for just the regular Focus Sash version. If you are going for a Trick Room version, it is also entirely viable as a Imprisoned Trick Room Pokemon as well, and just going reasonably fast. Like 80 base speed is not too bad. So Imprisoned Trick Room, so that you can stop the opposing Pokemon from going for a Trick Room. This would be used on a more wants to go fast offensive team. Not going to use the sacred HO acronym there, so because that's overused and used entirely wrong now. But on teams that want to go fast and hit hard and don't want to be in Trick Room is how I will describe it. So Imprisoned Trick Room will be very good for that. You can definitely drop one of these for Mystical Fire as well, because you won't hit the Steel types. Moonblast and Mystical Fire would be perfectly fine as coverage. So would Psyshock and Mystical Fire, but you want two of the three at least. Psyshock over Psychic, so you can hit on the physical side. Moonblast is covering the special side, so again, Telepathy doesn't really matter. It could be Trace if you don't have anything that can hit the Gardevoir, but I would assume on this kind of team, spamming Earthquake would be pretty reasonable as well, because you'd be wanting stopping Trick Room, hit hard, hit fast. Earthquake is probably going to be one of them, so Telepathy would be fine, Trace would be fine. So if you don't want to go with the Focus Sash, or it is taken, and you still want to go with Trick Room, if you max out the bulk on Gardevoir, then it will be able to take some hits. So Grass type on this one I would recommend, because you don't even bother about hitting the Steel types, and Grass will make you immune to spores, so that would be slightly better for being a dedicated Trick Room setter. That's what this would be. And then you've got the more supportive moves in the Will-O-Wisp and Helping Hand. So if you do go for Trick Room, this can set it up somewhat well, get the Trick Room up, Helping Hand next to the Sweeper in the Trick Room, and if you need extra support, Will-O-Wisp can burn the physical attackers as well. Its special bulk is much better than its physical bulk, so you should just max out the physical bulk. You don't need any special attack investment. So if you're going with this Gardevoir, it is so that you are dedicated to Trick Room, so you can help support the rest of the team. So max defense is worth going for here. Again, Trace or Telepathy. Same for every Gardevoir. Do you have something that can hit yourself? If no, Trace. If yes, Telepathy. Finally, Gardevoir is fast enough to make use of Choice Scarf, because Choice Scarf Gardevoir is a world champion. It won it back in 2014 with the Pachirisu team. I'm pretty sure that I just, from what I remember, this is the spreads that Seijun used to win World, so I just basically stole that, because it did something, Garchompy, I assume. It also survived a bullet punch from Lucario some of the time, and some of the time was that time in Game 2. So that 44 defense does help. Like, World's Finals in 2014 show that. So don't know what else it does, but it's just a tiny bit of optimized bulk. You don't need to go timid. Like, base 130s are barely in existence. There's Jolteon, I guess. There is Dragapult as well. You could go for Dragapult, I guess. Actually, outspeeding Dragapult would make sense. I did initially steal that from Sage, and I'm pretty sure he was Modest, but now I've just realized that Dragapult is Pokemon. Please do go Timid if you're going Choice Scarf. So, if you don't care about Dragapult, then do go Modest. But yeah, unfortunately, just remember Dragapult's a Pokemon, so you should probably go with that instead. Got the coverage as well. You can't have any of these. I would probably still have Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam. You don't need Side Shock. You could have Mystical Fire. You probably should have Icy Wind, because making use of the Choice Scarf Icy Wind will be pretty good. That will catch a lot of people in that initial revealing of the Choice Scarf as well. But Mystical Fire somewhere on the set, probably over Side Shock, is entirely reasonable as well. So yeah, that's going to be it for Gardevoir. It's a very flexible Pokemon. It can do many different things. It can definitely solve a problem on your team, but you can very much build around it as well. And the fact that there's just not many fairy types makes it actually pretty good as well. So, yeah, I think Gardevoir has a lot of potential in this format.